Shodanandana Vrajanaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Prabhupada Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki, Srimad Bhagavatam ki. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 9, Text 39. Pritohamastu Bhadramte Lokanam Vijayachaya Yadastu Se Gunamayam Nigunam Manuvanayan. Word for word. Pritaha, pleased. Aham, myself. Astu, let it be so. Bhadram, all benediction. Te, unto you. Lokanam, of all the planets. Vijaya, for glorification. Ichaya, by your desire. Yat, that which. Astu se, you prayed for. Gunamayam, describing all transcendental qualities. Nirgunam, although I am free from all material qualities. Ma, me. Anuvanayam, nicely describing. Translation. I'm very much pleased by your description of me in terms of my transcendental qualities, which appear mundane to the mundanas. I grant you all benediction in your desire to glorify all the planets by your activities. Purport by Srila Prabhupada ki. A pure devotee of the Lord, like Brahma and those in his line of disciplic succession, always desire that the Lord be known all over the universe by each and every one of the living entities. That desire of the devotee is always blessed by the Lord. The impersonalist sometimes prays for the mercy of the personality of Godhead Narayan as the embodiment of the material goodness. But such prayers do not satisfy the Lord because he is not therefore glorified in terms of his actual transcendental qualities. The pure devotee of the Lord are always most dear to him, although he is always kind and merciful to all living entities. Here the word gunamayam is significant because it indicates the Lord possessing transcendental qualities. I'll just read the translation again. I am very much pleased by your descriptions of me in terms of my transcendental qualities, which appear mundane to the mundanas. I grant you all benediction in your desire to glorify all the planets by your activities. So I'd like to ask for the blessings of the senior devotees in this room. There's many of them here. And also Srila Prabhupada, my spiritual master, and all the devotees. Okay. So in this first line it says, a pure devotee of the Lord like Lord Brahma and those in his disciplic succession always desire that the Lord be known all over the universe by each and every living entity. So the first point I wanted to talk about is everyone within this material world, everyone's seeking this fame and glory. We see it just growing more and more in today's world. Everyone wants to be famous. Everybody wants to be known. But that fame and glory can only go a certain distance. You know, everyone's into your Kardashians, your DiCaprios, all those kind of people. These names are only going to live for a short period of time. Where devotees of the Lord, their names live forever because their activities are eternal. There's a verse in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, in the Madhya Lila, it's chapter 8, verse 246, and there's a conversation happening between Lord Chaitanya and Ramananda Roy, and he's asking Lord Chaitanya is asking Ramananda Roy, what are the most glorious activities? And Ramananda Roy goes on to say those who spread Krishna's glories all throughout the world. And those devotees, they're the most glorious and the most famous. So although all these people within the material world, they're seeking fame and glory, that fame and glory only lasts for a short period of time. Or on the other hand, the devotees' fame and glory lasts for eternity. So we've seen within this chapter Lord Brahma's prayers, and they have no duplicity. And at the end of this class, I'm going to be talking about some of Srila Prabhupada's heartfelt prayers, which he had done in his life before he went on his mission to the West. So Lord Brahma being the head of this Sampradaya, we can learn a lot from him within this chapter, within this verse. The first one that I wanted to talk about is that he did not try to solve any of the problems himself, and we can see this in our own spiritual life a lot of the time when we're going through difficulties within our own life or with certain services. We can try to take on that ourselves, and it creates a very difficult position to be in. But Lord Brahma, leading by example, he was seeking guidance through prayer. And you see a lot of the devotees within our Sampradaya, they follow in his footsteps. So always seeking guidance through prayer. I've had some difficult moments recently in my devotional life, and I definitely turn to prayer, and at the time you don't notice it that much, but as I look back now and start to connecting those dots looking back, I can see how much help I was given by Krishna in those times, reciprocating with my prayers. So that's the first point. And we see he was driven to do his service by creating this material world to give every living entity an opportunity to serve Krishna and eventually go back to Godhead. So we can also follow this example while we're here with come into contact with Krishna consciousness. We're so fortunate. We get the association of great devotees every day. And we can make it our mission also to spread this Krishna consciousness in whatever little way we can, whether it's going out and doing books like Sajani has been doing lately, traveling around the world, preaching, doing Sankirtan, like Harinam Ruchi do, or devotees here go out every Saturday night doing Harinam. That's very glorious. Or just having these little contacts with people that visit New Govardhana, and just telling them a little bit about Krishna. Bhakti Siddhanta Maharaj would say, whoever you come into contact with throughout the day, just tell them about Krishna. It's a very glorious thing to do because you're giving that living entity an opportunity to awaken that love of Godhead which lies dormant within their heart. And another thing we see that Lord Brahma has done is he spoke his heart and what's on his mind. So while creating this material world, he had to create some pretty disturbing living entities. So he was very disturbed and worried about that. But he spoke his what's within his heart and also what's upon his mind. So this is another important aspect for a devotee to remember, to always find those people who you trust within your Krishna consciousness, those who you're close to, whether it's your spiritual master, those close devotee friends, family, and just talk to them about what's on your mind, what difficulties you're having within Krishna consciousness. Because we've got certain things within our mind or certain things that are within our heart which aren't productive for our own Krishna consciousness. We should be speaking about these with those close to us. And it helps one advance on the path of Krishna consciousness. Makes the path much easier. So Krishna is without material qualities, but he has an absolute reservoir of spiritual qualities. We should spend this lifetime learning about all these beautiful qualities of Krishna. There's a verse in the Isha Upanishad, verse 14, and it says that one should know one should know Sri Krishna and his name form, his transcendental name form, qualities and pastimes, as well as his temporary material creation with his temporary demigods, men and animals. When one knows this, he surpasses death and the ephemeral cosmic manifestation with it and enters into the eternal kingdom of God and enjoys a life of bliss and knowledge. So this verse encapsulates that we should spend our life learning these aspects of Krishna. It's very important. So the next point, what I wanted to make from this verse, first of all, almost missed something. So Krishna has so many wonderful qualities. There's 64 of those qualities described in the Nectar of Devotion. I was catching up with Mukunda Maharaj the other day, and he was saying how much Prabhupada encouraged his devotees to read this book over and over again. It was such an important book that Prabhupada worked on. So not only are we bewildered by the amazing qualities that Krishna has, but Krishna also gets bewildered by himself sometimes and his beauty and his amazing qualities. There was a story of him when he's a little baby and he's looking in the mirror and he was trying to play with himself as he's a little beautiful baby. And also as an adult, he was also bewildered by his reflection. So very amazing. But some very amazing qualities that we see as devotees that Krishna has is his Bhakta Vatsala. Every time I say that, I'm remembered of Kadamakananda Swami's servant. He's a very sweet devotee. So Krishna is very affectionate to his devotees, and Dina Dayalu, yeah, he's very merciful to the conditioned souls. The very amazing qualities that Krishna has. So the next point is the Mayavadis. So we're talking about in this verse. They believe that like certain avatars are an embodiment of the mode of goodness. So that's actually quite offensive. Krishna's above the modes. As we all know, the modes of material nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance, are emanations from the Lord Krishna. But Krishna is not subject of material nature, therefore he is niguna. He's not affected by the modes of nature. So here at the beginning, what I was talking about, Lord Brahma's prayers, we've seen throughout Srila Prabhupada's life that especially before he came to the West, he had some very amazing moments of prayer. And one was at when he first moved to the Radha Damodar Temple. Who's been to the Radha Damodar Temple? It's such an amazing place. So when Srila Prabhupada first went there and started living in Vrindavan at the Radha Damodar Temple, there was a pujari who lived up above the courtyard of the Radha Damodar Temple. Hriday Nanda Babaji was his name, if I remember correctly. He was born in Radhakund and he'd been a pujari all of his life. And he often would hear someone crying out in the courtyard of the Radha Damodar Temple. But he never really paid attention. He would just hear it and he would go about with his own sadhana. Then one night he could hear the crying. It was quite intense. And he thought, I'm going to check out what this is. And he said he went up there and he seen Srila Prabhupada, and he had one of those little brooms which you see in India, those little straw brooms. They're really ecstatic. We've got one here actually. And he was sweeping around the samadhis there of Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, and just begging for their mercy. Hey Rupa, hey Sanatan, hey Gurudev. Just begging for their mercy and guidance that he'll be able to fulfill the big instruction that he got from his spiritual master, Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj, which was to bring this Krishna consciousness to the West and give it to the people of the West. And he went on to say in this interview that when Srila Prabhupada was residing in this Radha Damodar temple, he'd never seen anyone in the 78 years of his time in Vrindavan have the sadhana that Srila Prabhupada had. His chanting was so intense, his prayerful mood, the work that he was putting in into his books, his translations, into his teachings. So just spending all that time, intense sadhana, preparing himself for that big mission to come to the West and spread Krishna consciousness throughout the whole entire world. So just wanted to touch a little bit on that story, to just showing Srila Prabhupada's prayerful mood, like Lord Brahma here in this verse, or within this chapter, and how important it is for us devotees to pray for guidance, for strength, and so forth. And there's another story about Srila Prabhupada. This one goes to Mayapur Dham, and Srila Prabhupada would go and visit Mayapur every now and then, and he would go to the Advaita Acharya's house. So Advaita Acharya's house is a very transcendental place. That's where a lot of meetings happened like 500 years ago to talk and how to spread this Sankirtan movement, what the next step was. And Srila Prabhupada would go there every now and then, and he would sit at the back of the temple room, and once again chanting very deeply from the heart. Tears were flowing from his eyes, and the pujari would see him and look at him and be like, oh, didn't really know who he was. He was wearing white at that time, Srila Prabhupada. And he would see him there again at the back of the room chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. The chanting this holy name, once again trying to get the mercy so he could fulfill the mission of his spiritual master, Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj. And one time, he went missing, Srila Prabhupada. He stopped coming. Then after a while, this pujari, he started seeing all these Westerners start to appear in Mayapur, and he's like, this is odd. Where's all these Westerners coming from? All these white men and women are here, they're chanting, they know about Krishna, they're preaching nicely about Krishna, what's happening? And then one day he got a Back to Godhead magazine, and he looked on the back and he couldn't believe it. It was Srila Prabhupada. He recognized it was him. But just to go back on that story a little bit, after he didn't see Srila Prabhupada for a while, Srila Prabhupada turned up to that temple in his saffron robes as a sannyasi, and there's that man. He was at this grihas. He's now taken sannyas, and he went up and he was very happy to see him again. At that time, it was very intense. He was chanting. He was in this prayerful mood, begging for the mercy that he could complete this mission of his spiritual master. And he finally went up to him, this Pujari. He said, like, I've been seeing you come here. Like, what's your name? I'm Abhay Charanarabinda Bhaktivedanta Swami. And he gave him some prasadam, and he said, actually, this is my final day. I'm actually hopping on a boat tomorrow, and I'm going to America to fulfill the grand order of my spiritual master. And I'm most fallen, so I'm here begging for the mercy of the previous acharyas that I may able to complete the instruction of my spiritual master. So back to what I just skipped over before. So he had gone to America, and the Pujari started to see all these dancing white devotees and preaching Krishna consciousness. Then he got it back to Godhead magazine, and he's seen Srila Prabhupada on the back, and he was like, oh my God, he's done it. He's actually gone to the West, and he's spreading Krishna consciousness all about. So he was trying to find the devotees, and he was so happy when he found the devotees and asked about Srila Prabhupada and what he'd been up to. And he was so happy that Srila Prabhupada was chosen to spread this Krishna consciousness throughout the whole entire planet. So I just found that very beautiful that we find that within Srila Prabhupada, his very prayerful mood, begging for mercy and direction. And as devotees, we can follow in his divine footsteps and always know that we can always pray for guidance and instruction. And so Srila Prabhupada ki. Such an amazing person. Any questions? Anyone want to add anything? Nishinga Kavacha? What's it?
On their own strength, we don't have much chance of transcending the modes of nature. As you were saying, if we just pray to the lotus feet of our spiritual master, whatever that may be, and Krishna, then all that strength comes. Despite our weaknesses, Krishna and the spiritual master can give us what we need.
Yeah. Any question?
One other recollection that I could mention. Well, this is probably pretty stupid of me, but when I first came across that, there's a book called Srila Prabhupada, Friend to All, and it describes all those people back in India who met Prabhupada before he came to the West. And that phrase that Satsvarup Maharaj used in his book, A Lifetime in Preparation, that Prabhupada's journey didn't begin on the Jaladuta, since he met his spiritual master.
Yeah.
All those years of preparation.
Yeah. I think that's an important point for us devotees to remember. Sometimes we can, look too far into the future and, maybe be disappointed where we're at or certain faults within ourselves, but just know that this Krishna consciousness is a process. And even great souls like Srila Prabhupada, he works so hard day in and day out. Like even as a Grihasta, he was always chanting his 16, many rounds, reading 2 hours of Bhagavatam each day, always spending time with devotees. And it's just a process that we do day in and day out. And if we keep at it year after year, these results will come. And like you mentioned also, if we keep this prayerful mood, begging for the mercy of those who have walked before us, we can put ourselves in an opportunity where we can help spread Krishna consciousness also all around the world. Yeah, very nice. Yeah, it's always very nice remembering and talking about Srila Prabhupada's pastimes. So nice. Any other points, anyone? Nishinga Kavacha Prabhu?
Just you're talking about earlier on the challenges you face when you're praying.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Looking back, you can see it.
Mm.
And in my experience, when you're praying to Krishna for protection, for mercy, for guidance,
Yeah.
it's almost like it's instantaneous.
Mm.
It's just like
Yeah.
almost straight away it happens.
Yeah.
Or you find as you're regularly reading also, that
Mm.
you find the answers there in the scriptures. It's quite extraordinary.
Yeah.
And I feel that if we always are doing that, then we don't take show of the scriptures, we don't take show of prayer,
Yeah.
take show of hearing and chanting, then we lose our ourselves in that
Mm.
meditation.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like there's one, I know it happened this once, I know it happened more. Papa was offering prayers that we used to really ask for Papa protection that they don't fall down. Puzzled. Wasn't always praying that way.
Yeah. So nice.
Giving us an example of that in our life.
Yeah. For myself, being conscious going through difficult times, if you really observe how you're experiencing these kind of moments, I describe it to people like it's like Krishna like puts this cushion around. That's what it feels like. It just softens everything around you. So these difficulties become like covered in like a sponge. So that's what it felt like. So much more easy to deal with. Yeah. Chaitanya, Kijai.
Thank you for the class, Prabhu. Very nice. That was nice recalling Prabhupada's pastimes. You were saying at the beginning of the class how the Kardashians and the Capras of the world, it's kind of where we have, I guess it comes out of pride on the legal legacy behind you remembered,
Yeah.
kids, grandkids, the world knows our name.
Yeah.
And yet then we're taught here in Christian consciousness to be more humble and tolerant and be a servant of the servant. And yet, kind of ironically, that in that position you become famous.
Yeah.
Eternally. But how to remain in that mood of servant of the servant and just trying to please Krishna and our spiritual master and not have this kind of creeping thought of going, if I do this,
I'm going to be the most famous.
I'm going to be the most famous
Yeah.
in all the world. So this kind of mentality of creeping rather than just being, no, I'm just doing this.
Yeah.
And that's perfect.
Yeah. I just think we just fall back onto what Nishinga was just talking about before. Like if one is in a prayerful mood and they're taking shelter of the holy name, the Srimad Bhagavatam, they're not going to kind of fall into that like pridefulness or these other certain qualities that go along with that. So always in this prayerful mood, begging for mercy, reading the Srimad Bhagavatam, chanting the holy name, spending time with devotees, having close relationships with devotees, because that will check you also if you start to get a bit like, those good friends will, they'll be like, whoa. So you're just really taking shelter of the process that Srila Prabhupada's laid down before us. And like someone like Srila Prabhupada, he was very well known around the world at his time. If you look back at those 10 years, what he did in those 10 years, there's no one on this planet that has done that. Like the biggest CEOs of companies, the biggest businesses around the world, this little old man just had this little suitcase, came to America and just spread this movement all around the world. It's like crazy to think of that. No one's ever done anything like that. So many people knew him, so many people were treating him in a certain way, but because of the way he's lived his life in that prayerful mood, this humility, accepting everything on the behalf of his spiritual master, you don't fall into that trap of becoming proud and all the other things that go along with that. Yeah, so staying strong within the process of Krishna consciousness. I think also having those close devotees who can check you when needed to. Would you like to add anything to that, Nishinga Kavacha? Yeah?
Very much class.
Nice to have you back. I missed you. Okay.
It's a combination of things. Exactly everything you said is very important.
Yeah.
So something other people. Also cultivating humility.
understand that position, but I'm just
Yeah.
very, very important. And also trying to become free from the influence of worldly preference.
Mm.
Because under the effects of passion and ignorance, especially, of course, goodness is also not ideal, especially under the influence of passion and ignorance, we start to become inflated with things.
Yeah.
How much I achieve.
Mm.
But if we can hold that is, as Chris says, cycle up some step back, free from those places. Then we can more fixed in our consciousness without anything.
Yeah. Very nice. Thank you. So yeah, to finish up, always staying in that prayerful mood. It's very important within Krishna consciousness to remain in that prayerful mood. Krishna is a person, so he's always there for us. We can speak to Krishna every day, reveal our problems, what's upon our mind, what's within our heart. And he's our dearmost friend, so he's always there to help us and to guide us along the way. And we're so fortunate. This Krishna consciousness is the perfection of life. Srila Prabhupada Ki!